Most people don't know what commitment really means. They confuse it with motivation, with energy, with being in the mood. But commitment doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't ask for comfort. It doesn't need inspiration. Commitment means doing it anyway, every single time, no matter who's watching, no matter how tired you are, no matter how long it takes. That's why most men fail. They start strong. They speak big. They post about their goals. But when the lights go off and no one's clapping, they disappear. They wait for the next wave of motivation. But motivation is a mood. Commitment is a lifestyle. If you want to win, you have to kill the idea that this is supposed to be easy. You have to kill the part of you that only shows up when it's convenient. Because the ones who rise, the ones who build bodies, businesses, and empires, they do it when it's raining. They do it when they're broken. They do it when the whole world is silent and there's no applause in sight. Commitment isn't sexy. It's repetition. It's the same habits, the same grind, the same lonely hours, over and over again. And most people can't stomach that. But you, if you're serious, you won't just show up. You'll stay. So understand this. Greatness isn't built in public. It's built in private, behind closed doors. When your name means nothing and your results haven't arrived yet, that's where commitment lives. That's where discipline is born. And if this is where you stop making excuses, subscribe now. Because this is the life where comfort dies and real men rise. You want to know who wins? The one who stopped giving himself options. The one who doesn't wake up asking, "Do I feel like it today?" The committed man isn't looking for motivation. He's looking for results. He doesn't wait until conditions are perfect. He doesn't pause for permission. He shows up because the decision was already made. That's the difference. Most people keep the back door open. They say, "I'll try. I'll see how it goes. Maybe tomorrow." But trying is what people do when they're not all in. It's what they say when they don't want to admit they're afraid of failing. But commitment doesn't try. Commitment doesn't ask. Commitment decides. When you're truly committed, there's no room for excuses, no room for distractions, no room for weakness disguised as logic. You wake up and execute. Tired, you go. Busy, you go. Doubtful, you go anyway. Because commitment doesn't ask how you feel, it asks who you said you were going to become. If you're still negotiating with yourself every morning, if you're still skipping reps when no one's watching, if you're still choosing comfort when it's time to build, then you're not committed. You're interested, and interest never built anything worth keeping. So kill the backup plan, burn the exit route, make it non-negotiable. That's how real power is built, not when it's easy, but when it becomes who you are. Everyone has a dream. Everyone starts. Everyone writes it down, announces it, and talks big at the beginning. But very few finish. Because finishing requires something most people don't have: relentless consistency. Not passion, not excitement, not hype. Just the ability to show up again and again, even when the fire is gone. The world doesn't care what you plan to do. It doesn't care about your intentions, your ideas, your perfect vision board. It cares about results, about follow-through, about whether or not you can carry something through pain, through boredom, through fatigue, until it's real. The committed man doesn't need variety. He doesn't get bored of the process. He repeats the reps. He refines the system. He tracks the progress. And while others are still waiting to feel ready again, he's already 10 steps ahead, because he never stopped. This is the separation. Ordinary men start when it's easy. Committed men finish when it's hard. They don't romanticize the process. They respect it. And that respect shows in how they treat their time, their health, their discipline, their word. So if you're tired of starting over, stop stopping. If you want to be different, don't just change your habits, change your standards. Finish what you started, even when no one's watching, especially then. Because in the end, the world won't remember what you said you were going to do. It will remember what you actually finished. The real battle doesn't happen when the cameras are on. It happens in the dark, in the silence, when no one will ever know if you showed up or not. That's where commitment is tested, not in public moments of hype, but in private moments of decision. Anyone can look disciplined when the world is watching. But what about when it's just you? No audience, no validation, no rewards. Just your alarm clock, your routine, and your vision. That's where most quit. That's where most break. But the committed? That's where they become unstoppable. Because in those moments, when it's cold, when it's late, when it's hard to breathe, that's where a different voice takes over. Not the voice of doubt, not the one looking for comfort, but the voice that says, "We do it anyway." Because this isn't about motivation. This is about identity. When no one's around, that's where greatness is born. When you hold yourself to the standard, even when no one would know if you failed, that's what separates the dangerous from the distracted. That's what builds the man who doesn't break under pressure, because he was forged in it. So next time you're alone, tired, tempted to skip, remember, this is the moment that defines you. Not when it's easy, not when it's public, but right here, in silence, in sweat, in the dark. Because that's where commitment lives, and that's where your future is being written. Everyone says they want change. Everyone says they want a better life, more money, more power, more peace. But most aren't willing to pay the price. They want results, but they don't want to become the man required to sustain them. That's where the committed rise, because they don't just want change. They become the change. They don't wait to feel worthy of it. They build the discipline, the resilience, the identity necessary to carry that life. And they do it with blood, with sweat, with silence. Not because it's glamorous, but because they decided long ago, this isn't a phase. This is who I am. Weak minds seek motivation. Committed minds create systems. Weak minds chase pleasure. Committed minds build tolerance for pain. Weak minds want the outcome. Committed minds train for the process. That's why one fades the moment it gets hard, and the other becomes unbreakable. You say you want to level up? Then stop asking what you need to get. Start asking who you need to become, because $1 million won't save a poor identity. A ripped body won't last on a lazy mind. Freedom won't survive in the hands of someone still addicted to comfort. So stop focusing on results. Focus on the man you must build to handle them. That's the real path. That's what commitment looks like. Not a mood, not a wish, a daily war with who you were yesterday. The committed don't hope for transformation. They live it, and that's why they win. Commitment isn't a post. It's not a playlist. It's not something you write down on January 1st and forget by February. It's a vow, silent, invisible, and unbreakable. It's what you do when the world stops clapping, when the rewards are far away, when everything in your body says quit, and you still show up. Because real commitment doesn't need attention. It doesn't feed delusions. It doesn't chase praise. It builds in silence, in private, in places no one will ever see. And that's why most people never feel its power, because they only move when there's something to gain. But the committed? They move because there's something inside them they refuse to lose. This is the truth. Every great man you admire, he wasn't made in public. He was made in the mornings no one saw, in the reps no one counted, in the hours of boredom, pain, silence, and rejection that would have broken anyone else. But not him, because he wasn't there for hype. He was there to become something no one could ignore. Commitment is what separates amateurs from killers, the curious from the dangerous. It's not what you do when it's exciting. It's what you keep doing when it's exhausting, when no one thanks you, when nothing changes for months, when your mind screams, "What's the point?" and your answer is, "This is who I am." That's the standard now. You don't miss. You don't fold. You don't shrink when it gets dark. You tighten the grip. You sharpen the blade. And you remember, this was never about being seen. It was about building a mind so sharp, so consistent, so brutal, that the world would have no choice but to see you eventually. So if you've been waiting for permission, this is it. If you've been holding back, stop. If you've been telling yourself, I'll get serious one day, understand this. There is no one day. There is only right now. Leave a comment if you're done hesitating. Let the world know. I don't need motivation. I'm committed. And if you're building in silence, if you're showing up alone, if you're tired but still standing, subscribe now. Because this life doesn't reward the loud, it rewards the locked in. And if you're still here, you're already becoming dangerous.